Okay. Welcome to the class, our second class. In the introductory class, which was the first one, we talked about an overview of what entrepreneurial engineering is all about, what we should expect when we hear the word entrepreneurship and engineering used together, and what the mixture or combination of two of them means and implies, and who is an entrepreneur, who is an engineer, then and the contributions and the roles that entrepreneurs and engineers play in the society, and why at this time that more than ever that we as entrepreneurial engineers are needed to drive wealth creation and wealth development and job creation. So, and in that class, I told all of us that we are going to be looking at the skills that we need to convert us or measure us as engineers that have entrepreneurship embedded in us. So these are skills that we're going to look at in this class. Like I told you in the first class, that 3 contacts of 2 hours each, or even 6 contacts is not enough for us to exhaust the content of this course. But we will have to make use of the limited time and resources that we have, and then read further moving forward. So in today's class, we are going to look at, we'll be looking at the skills that we need as engineers and as entrepreneurs to survive or to create an entrepreneurial, an enterprise. You know, as an entrepreneur, what you have in your heart is an entrepreneurial intention. So, and you are motivated by that intention and by other factors around you, and that has informed your decision to become an entrepreneur. So how do you move from point A to B, from being an engineer that is just focusing on solving problems to an engineer that is focusing on solving problems, but solving problems based on market demands and market response, and also understanding the business intricacies of your engineering profession. So we are going to look at practical skills that have been collated through survey and research from among ourselves. Engineers were consulted and used and interviewed, and surveys were collected from engineers to know the top skills that engineers think that are needed for them to become successful managers and operators of engineering ventures and enterprises. So the skills that we're looking at are skills that will guide us from inception of, or if it's an already existing businesses, skills that we need to manage them, run them successfully to achieve that entrepreneurial intention that we have. So remember, I told us in the last class that an entrepreneurial intention is different from every other intention, because an entrepreneurial intention, an intention that has a well-detailed plan on how to achieve that intention and the operations that will be executed to achieve those that intention. So it's not just an intention per se. For it to become an entrepreneurial intention, it has to have a well-detailed and perfected plan of execution. And for you to have a plan, that means that feasibility studies and so many knowledges must have been acquired for proper understanding of the scope and ramifications and of that of that operation, of that enterprise. So we're going to look at skills, these top skills that are needed, that we need to become successful entrepreneurs. So, we had a conversation, and we saw a chart that I showed you guys in the previous class that talked about who an entrepreneur is and what stuff an entrepreneur is made of. So, and we emphasize that just like an engineer, we are all into problem solving. So an entrepreneur and an engineer wants to solve problems for the society. They want to solve human-related problems. But the difference, like I told us in the last class, is that an engineer stops there. He looks at the technicalities of how those problems should and would be solved. But an entrepreneur does not look at only technicalities. An entrepreneur looks at the market. How does the market respond to those theories, to those formulas, to those plans, to those techniques, to those designs, and to those inventions? How does the market? So the entrepreneur desire market response to solving human needs, while an engineer just focuses on human needs. And for us to drive investment into our inventions, it has to be marketable. It has to have market response. It has to be market and industry driven. I mentioned that in the last class. So, but here, this is discovery needs, imagination, and inspiration are both shared by entrepreneurs and engineers. So here you have an engineer. Let's not look at the top boxes first. Let's look at these middle boxes where you have an engineer here and you have an entrepreneur, like we were shown in the last class. So this is what distinguishes an entrepreneur from an engineer. He has this underlying marketability. That is the focus of what an entrepreneur is looking for. So here, while an engineer is looking at how to discover, how to invent, and how to apply whatever the entrepreneur has identified as what is marketable and is a problem-solving measure to the society. So the engineer runs the technical operation of how these things can be achieved, how that movement from point A to point B will be achieved, that line between them, and the process is what the engineer deals with in this box. Then what we have here is a collection of what both of them are looking for. That is to discover new things through imaginative thinking, and here to develop those things. And developing those things comes with a lot of risk. And also there will be need, because it's a market-driven development now, for feasibility and a properly detailed plan of production. So all these are what you find here. So like I said in the previous class, that we are now being prepared or being built to do these two roles together by the virtue of this course we are taking. So there is no difference anymore between you as an engineer or you as a business engineer, as an entrepreneur. So you are now going to be synced together. The two roles are going to sync together. So because, like I said in the previous class, that engineers are better positions to be entrepreneurs. The reason is that an entrepreneur thinks about the market and the problem that he or she is going to solve. An engineer also thinks about the problem alone, but an engineer now that has technicalities, that is being trained or that was developed to have the technicalities to solve this problem, having an additional skill of determining the market response or the market desire to a problem is a plus. It's a huge loss, because while the engineer is now looking at the problem, he's not looking at the problem just as a human problem alone. He's also looking at the problem and looking at investment into those problems and how those investments can be recouped. Because if you invent a solution that does not address the problem and does not bring returns on investment, then a project has failed. Like I gave a demonstration with the pedestrian bridges that we construct that users don't use. So then when we combine these two things together, we are going to, as an engineer and as an entrepreneur, we are going to land with an enterprise. We are going to land with an enterprise. And for enterprise, now, if the product is designed, developed, and ready to go, what we're looking at now is commercialization. How do we push this product or this invention or this theory or this formula or this work that we have designed or this magnificent residential structure for affordable housing income? How do we sell it to the people or to the stakeholders? So that is the commercialization of the invention, of the idea. And we are, in our next class, going to learn about sustainability, because the world where we live now is driving towards sustainable energy, sustainable development, sustainable management, sustainable infrastructure management. So these are the things that the globe is looking at. How do we reuse the things that we've done, or use those things, or apply them without impacting generations to come, and also the economy? So we're going to look at that in our next class. But here, when we arrive at our commercialization stage, or where we have designed or developed and want to take those ideas, those intentions into a full-grown business now, we must make sure that we are entrepreneurial engineers who are operating within the principles and tenements of sustainable development. That's sustainability, which is what the globe is looking at now. So, and also this experience that we have here as an entrepreneur, and the experience we have, the technical experience, gives us the enterprise, and then the commercialization comes in. So at this stage, you will acquire, by virtue of this course and by virtue of our experience as engineers, the technicalities that we need to innovate and invent or design the solution to the problem that we want to use as our entrepreneurial intention, and its entrepreneurial skills, which is the leadership skills and the business skills combined, that will help us get over here. So this is what we are going to look at. So those skills are what are in this course to discuss. But there is a fundamental skill that you may not learn in any classroom, and that is persistence or perseverance, persuasion. Here, you know, is something that money cannot buy, and is also something that maybe experience is the only thing that will teach you. So it is very, very a fundamental skill in the course of our journey towards starting up and successfully running a business. If you don't have patience, you may not be able to build anything business-wise that will last a time, because you're going to go through several trials, and you will need to succeed or survive those trials and before you start thriving. So this is where you need the persistence. You have to keep going and going. There is no perfect formula to becoming a successful entrepreneur, an engineer. Of course, we are aware that even as an engineer, that you have to do trials, do tests, test run things before you can even make an invention. So the same principle is applicable to setting up a business. Many of us may have acquired that experience in the course of our different operations. Please, if you're the one that have the noise on your background, please mute your mic so that you don't have to disrupt the lecture. So this persistence, which I said your basic experience will teach you, and your environment will teach you, and the things that have happened to you in life will help to mold you into a persistent person, and the things that you want to achieve, your entrepreneurial intention. How powerful is that intention? How powerful is your idea? How excited are you about it that nothing else matters until it is done? So these are all what builds up into persistence, because you are going to be tested and you are going to be tried. So just like every other thing we do in life, but how determined, how resolved that you are, which are all fundamental elements of persistence, is a major factor from moving from point A as just an entrepreneur and point B as just an engineer to becoming an entrepreneurial engineer. That is arriving at where you have an enterprise now. So that is what we're going to look at in the course of this class, all the skills that are needed. So these skills on the board, on the display that you're looking at, are the top 20 skills that over 150 engineers registered with Current and members of NSC and that are practicing in Nigeria identified as the top skills required for managing both engineering and construction projects and venture. That's business or project itself. So these are the top skills that we have identified. And the number one ranking skill, this research was done in 2016, but was adopted in 2019, was published in 2019. So this, what you're looking at are our colleagues engineers. They identified this. And if you look at the frequency, you will see out of the 155 people that participated in the interview, 150% said that decision making is number one, is the top ranking decision when it comes to the skills that you need to manage an engineering and construction project or venture. So, and the second that was rated again is team building, because engineers understand that you can't do it alone. You can either be a structural engineer or a mechanical engineer or an electrical engineer or either of them. And even in that engineering, even as I am a civil engineer, I am not specialized in structural design. I am specialized in engineering management, in construction management. So if I need, even if I have a basic experience of designs, I will still look for the projects that I do. I still look for my colleagues who are professors or who are doctors of structural analysis or structural design to work with me. So you need a team of professionals in engineering. You can't do without it. So engineers identify team building after decision, team building as the second most important. Then they also identified communication, both written and oral. And they identified design, program design. In design in this context is program design. That's the total plan that you have, not just the paper design. That's why it's a program design. So because you can call a project design to be just the detailed design, but a program design has to do with the life cycle of that project itself, from the beginning from inception, execution, completion, then post completion during usage. So the total, that's now when you have a program. So you have completed a detailed analysis of the whole design from beginning to when it is being used and when it will be demolished, and the returns on investment of that project that you've designed or program that you're. So that's what makes up the program design. So, and also they identified motivation and they identified a program maintenance. Like I told us in one of our class, in the last class, that ICT related software engineering, they are constantly producing, all these ICT people producing apps, they are constantly updating it based on market feedback. So we are, as engineers, we also know or identify that program maintenance and updates is also very important. And where does that update come in? Updates is all about getting more response, getting more feedback from the market to know how this invention, how this technology, or how this app, how this design, how this footbridge is responding with the market. Then getting those feedback and make a design to accommodate it, expanded design, and update it, then push it back to the industry. So that is these are the top 5. Then program design to delegation of responsibility, supervision, quality control, and employee training and training, just like we're undergoing now, are also within the top 10. So engineers think that training is very, very important, that quality of what we are doing as engineers is fundamental. And we are going to look at some of these skills individually in the coming slides, especially the top 5 ones. Excuse me. So, and then inside organization, you have security and creativity then start coming down. And the amazing thing was where I found leadership and creativity on this table, you know. Yeah, so, and that is interesting, you know, but don't take away the fact that it got about 141 frequency, that's ranking, that consider it very important. So don't look at their positions on the table, but look at their importance, because most of them are scoring. Look at the percentage, most of them are very high. But if you look at the ranking, the serial ranking, then you will have a problem with them. But look at the score that they are hitting. They are actually considered very, very important, just that some have to stand above others. So, but I was concerned by the position of these 2 skills, creativity and leadership. So, but whatever the case means, there is an element of leadership in all this. So maybe that might be what informed the decision of these engineers. So there is an element of leadership in every of these things, and there is an element of creativity in every of them. So we'll look at them as we go individually, then into the skills. So, and also health and safety is actually a little bit lower in the ranking. Before, health and safety was a fundamental, it was a concern, because before, like about 15 years ago, health and safety was a major, a top-notch issue in engineering and construction, but now it's actually gradually taking a little bit of backspace, because engineers are looking at innovation now as a 2020, innovation, creativity, and other soft skills, leadership soft skills to drive engineering. So that's why issues like health and safety is gradually is a very important issue. Don't take it out of the context. But it has actually taken a little bit of backseat, so that innovations and creativity can drive developments in engineering. So we'll look at these skills, some of these skills, but let's look at the operation of an organization generally. We have the leadership, of course, that encompasses the vision, the passion. Like I told you that you definitely need persistence. So that's where passion comes in. That's why persistence is the shield of the chart, the boss chart that shows you your role, our role as engineers, our role as entrepreneurs, and how we combine those to an enterprise and also commercialize that enterprise. So we have persistence shielding everything. So you can see under this leadership now that you have vision, and your persistence is going to be determined by the weight, the capacity, or the interest, the interest committed to that vision, that idea that you have that has transformed into a vision. So now, what will drive you from the beginning to the end is the passion, which encompasses both optimism and patience to give you that persistence that we're talking about. Because if you're not passionate about it, you will give up. One of the things they tell us when you want to do a PhD is that you must identify an area that you are passionate about. And the justification behind that is that if it's not passion that is driving that research, you will give up because it's a very tedious task or a very tedious responsibility. And when there is no enough passion driving it, then you may not be patient enough, and your optimism will be weakened, and you may lose focus or direction. So at the end of the day, what drives your operation is leadership. So it's very, very important that we know that our entrepreneurial operation will be led by a huge number of our leadership skills. So another is finance, financial management, the entrepreneurship, global entrepreneurship monitor, GEM. They said in 2015 that raising funds is one of the biggest challenge. Raising and managing funds is one of the biggest challenge of an entrepreneur, and that's correct. Many of us, because we feel like, okay, primarily 70%, according to Jim again, 70% of entrepreneurial startup comes as self-finance, self-funding. So, and most times, because we are self-funding ourselves, we don't keep financial record of our transactions. So if an investor comes in tomorrow and say, hey, how much is this company worth? You don't even know. Or how far have you gone? You can't even say, because we keep on, because of this is a passionate idea, a passionate interest, you keep on putting money maybe from your other source of income, or putting money into that venture without keeping a proper account of the transactions that you're making. So it is very important, because one of the things that stands you out as a responsible business owner is your financial management. You must learn to create your account. I'm sure in your financial related classes, they will teach or must have talked about that. So you must create account on how you manage your transactions and separate those transactions from your personal finance, so that tomorrow, if anybody wakes you up and say, come and make presentation on this your business, it will be easier. You can account for every one kobo that has gone into that business. You may not be mindful of this that I'm telling you now, but it says a lot about you and a lot about your business to the investor. What investors are looking at is the investment idea and discipline from the entrepreneur. So how you are able to demonstrate that to the investor, many of us don't pay attention to this. So at the end of the day, you have a wonderful idea, you make a wonderful presentation, but you don't get a thumbs up on your idea. One of the things that, as an internal person that consults for some investors, they look at is the discipline, the financial discipline. So you must, and engineers, we don't have that. We have the ability to actually budget and execute properly, but we don't have financial discipline to keep a proper account of our private endeavors or private projects, because we consider them private. But I'm telling you today, after this class, change from that. And there are a lot of applications. Excel can help you properly track some of your transactions and keep a proper record of them. So you can learn your Excel today watching YouTube if you don't know how to use Excel very well. And there are so many other financial softwares or applications that can help you keep track of your investment finance. So we are also looking at, you're going to also in operation, you have risk. Of course, we will assess those risks. I said in the last class that as an entrepreneur, you must be a risk taker. In fact, we are risk takers by default. That is another area where an engineer differs from an entrepreneur. And an engineer doesn't take risk. That's why we, from survey, shows that we are leaning towards entrepreneurship, which is we want to do things, we want to build things, but we want someone else to take the risk. So we want to develop our ideas in an existing organization, in a thriving organization. We don't want to start a new one because of the risk that is involved. So, but an entrepreneur that's the EN. The E starts with taking risk, because you don't have anybody to give you. You are providing for yourself until you have an investor give you. So an investor is not going to come in without you doing something, without you finishing the feasibility studies, without you knowing the book, every letter on it, on that your idea. You have to take ownership of it for an investor to be convinced. So, so that's another area. So we must assess the risks of that operation, know the chances of it surviving, and know the chances of it failing, and break the risks down to what we can take and the consequences, that is the assessment, and the consequences of those decisions or those risks that we're taking, and able to mitigate them adequately. So like our health and safety practice is part of a risk mitigation and management practice in engineering. So in our business environment now, in the office environment, we also use that approach that we use to drive health and safety and environment into the general business risks, so to identify them and to manage them. So then also the organization and the structure of ourselves. Normally, as a founder, the culture and beliefs of the founder and the entrepreneur always becomes the structure and culture of the organization. You don't really take them too far away. But as an entrepreneur that wants to go far, as you're opening up the business to investment, you must learn that you also open up the business to some structural and cultural adjustments. For instance, if you are doing something, if you are developing something that will be used in Nigeria, for instance, you must not take out of context the fact that different locations in Nigeria have different cultures. So that must reflect in what you're doing, and also your organizational culture, that is the culture now that you imbibe in your organization, should also accommodate all those things. So because the way that you relate or operate or execute missions in your establishment in your organization will have to accommodate the cultures of your host community, your business community. So, and those things will have a way, they are two different things, but they have a way of interplaying with each other, both the organizational culture and the environmental or host community culture. So these things, they influence each other on the side. So these are things that you have to be mindful of and then be open to. Don't be too rigid with your personal views. And we'll talk about a little bit of that, of culture, when we're talking about team building. So, then communication, oral and written, we'll talk about communication, we'll talk about teamwork, we'll talk about them in a separate slide. So then organization planning, directing and control, and program design. These are the activities that will happen under your operation. So so that you are mindful of them and then relate these skills that we're going to be treated or that we're talking about, how they relate to all these things, all this organizational approach that will help you succeed. Okay, then interpersonal skills have to do with your personality, your attitude, and the rest of them. We'll talk about that in team building. Then market skill. So part of the things that as an entrepreneurial engineer we have to know, like I said, is the skills that makes us entrepreneurial. So we are no longer one-dimensional engineer. We're not looking at the problem alone now from only the perspective of engineering and the calculation of an engineer. We're looking at it, we're thinking outside the box, we're looking at it from the market, the end users, the product users, the residents in the house that we're designing. How do they feel? How would they respond? What do they want actually? So we'll continue to do those studies, and it will now inform our creativity. You know, you keep on discovering. That's the feedback you get from the market will now continue to make you evolve as an organization and will help you to understand and interpret the market, how the market is responding to your idea or to your establishment or to your enterprise. And also then creativity and innovation works together. They are interlinked. So innovation continues to improve the creativity and its application. So as long as you have a lot of people that you're trying to satisfy as an entrepreneur, the open market out there, you continue to innovate and also you find that the idea you have is no longer uniquely yours. So you have other players, other competitors in the market. So you're going to, and everybody is dragging or sharing the same customer. So you're going to now distinguish yourself and be dynamic and be refreshing and understand what your clients want. If you're building a house, you understand the colors that make sense when you work with your architect. You understand the brief that your clients want and their personality, so that there won't be much differences. You can so that you continue to innovate your ideas towards their satisfaction. So that's one of the market skills that we will need urgently as entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial engineers. And also awareness. We lack awareness as engineers because we are a little bit bored, a little bit. So, but we as entrepreneurial engineers are different from every other engineer because you need to be out there consulting with people, feeling the pulses and the empathy of the people. And if you're working in a corporate commercial establishments like maybe the banks and other corporations that are big, you will start understanding how organizations focus on these things as of today, and how important these things That's why, for instance, internet is driving towards Internet of Things, because now if you and I do a search on Google, Google automatically keeps you there, keeps bringing things that relates to that search that you've made towards you for a very long time, until you go back to your Google search setting and say, stop sending this to me, I don't want this anymore. They keep bringing it to you. So that is awareness. Google is so aware. Once you make a single search, maybe I want to buy iPhone 6, they will keep bringing you news on iPhone 6 after the search that you've made. So this is awareness, is where the world is going today. So if we are innovating, if we're building businesses as an entrepreneur, we have to apply that. The internet that we're using is changing to accommodate that. That's why they are doing Internet of Things, to pick artificial intelligence, to pick intelligence and to automatically update your search and your response and the feedback that you get from internet all the time. So in business, in fact, internet is business. So if internet, which is driving business as of today, have adjusted towards that within the last 2 years or 3 years now. So we also that are setting up businesses cannot go and start from analog. So we have to accommodate these things. Look at customer intuition, customer empathy, or the things that that our customers want, or our future customers, or do a feasibility study to understand how those ideas that we are going to put out there and we're going to put money in, how they respond or resonate with the customers. So who are going to use them, because those feedback that we'll get from those emotions of the customers can go a long way to readjust or redesign or reprogram just one tiny thing that would have caused a failure. And now you should know that once you call it a business, you're putting it out there, you're opening it up to investment, you are also exposing yourself to several risks, several potential lawsuits, several issues out there. So there's always a need for us to ensure an end-to-end management when it comes to whatever venture that we are going to go into. So then there is social skills. It's very interesting that awareness is under market skills and not under social skills. So there's social skills that has to do now with human face and human interaction of the business as well. So you look at now, in this aspect now, you look at the problems that you're solving for the society, the gap that you're bridging for the society. So they have to be, they have to have value, they have to add value to the society, they have to be of standard, they have to be in compliance with the relevant laws. I wrote an article on ethics and compliance in engineering and construction industry. So if you read that article whenever you have chance, then you will understand that it is very important that as an engineer, you can't separate yourself from the standards of whatever, the best standards of whatever you're going to do. And also we have also identified that in sustainable development, standard is the key word, because for you not to redo it, which is now going to cost another resources, both in human, environmental impact, and other resources, energy and time that you're going to waste to redo a work that was not well done because of the quality and standard. You are impacting in the environment, and that is a problem. So standards and quality and sustainable development cannot be separated. They are two interwoven link in modern development that cannot be separated. So it is very important that as you are trying to run or start or manage or improve your leadership skills when it comes to engineering management or construction management, that you understand that standard is not an option. It's not an option. It is better for you to increase your price. I've understood that customers actually, they will tell you that they want something that is affordable. Everyone wants something that is affordable, but not everyone wants something that is cheap. And in fact, most customers don't want something that is cheap. They only want something that is affordable. So they want to negotiate to be sure that they are getting it at the best price possible. So it's better you up your price and maintain your standard than reducing your price and reducing your standard. Because as an engineer, your standard is in your trademark. So if you do a collapsed building, it has to be on record. That is one of the things that I'm talking about, that we don't have a database that in Koren does not have a database to manage these things. Because if you have a dent as an engineer, you do a pack job, you do a substandard job, it has to be on your record. It has to be on your record, so that people can stay away from substandard execution of projects or materials, because they know this one. Now you're making people choose between corruption and their personal image or professional image, so they have to look at it properly to weigh the options before they decide. So we cannot emphasize how important ethics is and maintenance of standard is as an entrepreneur or as an engineer or as an engineer manager or a project manager to the society or to sustainable development. So and then, like I said, it comes back to your integrity if you go out of the policy. And we should also understand that one of the key skills that we are known for as engineers to some extent is that we are honest more than most of the other professions. And we have tenacity. We don't give up. We have persistence. And we have integrity. To an extent, we have those things. And we need to build on those things that are audio for now, that have been given to us by virtue of our profession, and live up to them in area of practice and implementation. So they will help us stand out. And you remember that you're coming into a market that is very, very competitive. So don't just focus on the price and say, oh, I want it to be cheap because I want to beat my competitors. No, if you are selling standard and you're selling integrity and you're selling honesty and your ethics, you're ethically in compliance, you are going to sell. People who know the value of what you're selling will come and buy. So let us not always stick to, that's why many of the things that we're importing from China are very, very substandard, because our people go there and tell them to do those things. So we must find a way to tie integrity, standard, and the problem solving we offer to the society together. And as an entrepreneur, is very, very important. So let's look at then mentorship. You know, we will find out that when we discover an idea, we are always the human factor of not sharing them, not bringing people up to it in order to protect them. Oh, someone else will steal the idea. I said in the last class that you should share the idea. Nobody is going to steal it. Even if they steal it, they can't do it. They can't implement it the way you will. It is your idea. You were the one that thought about it, brainstormed about it, that researched about it thoroughly. There is no way a piece of paper can contain, or any document can contain comprehensively everything that an idea needs. So share it, because you benefit more as an entrepreneur from sharing an idea to not sharing it. When you share an idea, you expose it to criticism. You expose it to challenges. That's why we do peer review in research. People will look at your work and critique your work properly and tell you the weaknesses in the work and the strengths in the work. So you know them. Even if you do not agree with them, you are now prepared in case an investor or an examiner asks you that same question. So that is why it is always good to share. You know, there's a common saying that problem shared is problem solved. So you share the idea. Don't worry about people stealing it. If they can do it, let them steal it and go and do. There are thousands of ideas that you can still generate, even an update on the one that you had before, and still beat them in the industry. So let us not worry too much about. I'm sure Yahoo started doing search engine before Google, but that does not mean that Yahoo is now leading in search engine. Google constitutes 99% of all internet search, or between 90 and 99% of all internet search, but Yahoo started before Google. So that's to tell you that an idea doesn't really mean anything if it's not well executed. So don't worry about the ideas, because these are problems that most entrepreneurs or people that want to go into entrepreneurial ventures have. We start worrying about the safety of these ideas. So then, of course, we have to improve our technical skills that we're doing. So your areas of specialization in engineering, you sharpen your skills in that area, especially if the area that you are going to do your enterprise in, or you are going to focus in, is in the area, in the core area of your engineering specialization. So you continue to update your skills, update your tools, update your programs, and your knowledge in that area. Very, very important. So, and there's another thing that we don't do very well, but most corporate organizations or multinational organizations do them. They are very, very important. Anything you do, always keep a register. We call it a register or a report. Lessons learned report is very, very important. The fact that you have a business idea may or may not be the idea that you will blossom in. So as you go on and try new things, you will evolve, you will reinvent yourself. So, but the lessons that you've learned in the process of moving from point A and B will probably help you by the time you get to the end of the product, to the finishing product, on how you're going to fine tune it and make it look good. I might mention that sometimes if I'm going to make a presentation that I know that the answer is already a no, I will still go. The reason why I still go is because I will learn more on why I received a no than if I had gotten a yes. So every opportunity where people need to sit together and give us lessons is very, very important, especially when it has to do with your area of focus or area of interest. So I made mention of quality. We would develop a quality strategy which is embedded in standard, like I said, ethical compliances. There is a quality law, you know. The first quality law that was discovered in the built environment, in the engineering environment, is Hombre law. Is a code, a building code. So you know, and which stipulates on punishments for not meeting the specified quality. So some of those things we need to come back, because now you are an entrepreneur and you're putting your name on the wall, out there to the world. So you must want to be associated with quality, because it will sell you more than cutting corners at the long run. So so you must focus on measures to manage quality and control them. You know, put in mechanisms to check what you're producing, whether it fits the standard accepted by the government, your local government, and wherever you're operating, and also your personal standard. So you look at all those. Then health and safety, and you must be environmentally friendly, environmental friendly. So because we're talking about sustainability now as at today's world, you must look at the impact of what you're doing. If you want to go and mine coal, if you want to deal with fossil fuel, if you want to do with anything that has impact in the environment, so you must look at all their impact into the environment and what is acceptable, because you don't want to collect people's money and then launch a business and then start facing litigations because you're not operating by the laid down guidelines and standards and codes. So it's very, very important. Then training and retraining. Yes, engineers are always encouraged to train and improve themselves in their area of specialization. So part of what you're doing today is part of that training. So we'll continue to learn how to improve ourselves, both in commercial aspect of it, the business aspect of our engineering practice, and the technical aspect of our engineering practice. So you do the training on entrepreneurial engineering, on business management, on engineering law, and ethical compliances. You do the training on your core area. If you are into structural engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and all the rest of it. So you want to, if you're into digital or software engineering, you must know the latest development in those areas. You have to know things that are happening, especially in the digital world as we have it today, because a lot is going on. Things are changing almost on a daily basis. And also the COVID-19 has meant that more people are moving businesses and interaction on internet. So you must look at all those things and their impacts into your area of specialization. So and continue to train and learn more in that area. So these are the whole areas, aspect of an engineering venture that you're looking at to manage or to develop or to pursue. So now we're going to, like I said, we're going to take some of those skills that were raised in our first paragraph, one after the other, some of them, at least the top ones, to discuss them, because we will not have time to go into full detail of each and every one of them, but you can read wider around them when you want. So we'll start by the first one, decision making. Which engineers were rated as topmost. And I told you that it was interesting to find leadership at the bottom of the rank, but I can tell you that leadership is fundamental in decision making, because decisions are taken by leaders. So you can as well swap the decision making part with leadership as number one. But decision is more specific in the responsibility of the leader. Now, and the reason why they identified the decision making is that they want to look at it not just leadership as a whole, they want to look at it as a unit, as a skill, so that engineering leaders will now learn decision making procedure as a unit instead of putting it together as under leadership. But I'm sure it's part of leadership. So then, what is decision making? We can say decision is just taking a decision. Deciding to do something. I want to go to work. I've decided to go to work today. Let me go, irrespective of the COVID-19 that they say I can work from home, but let me go to work. So that's a decision. But in this context now, we're looking at a decision because it does no longer have consequence as a leader. Your decision does no longer have consequences on you alone. It has corporate consequences. It has consequences on several other things, several other factors. So you have to look at those other factors holistically, and look at the influences, the relationship between them and the decision that you are making. So, because it is no longer a personal decision, it's now a professional decision to do something, because those decisions will be there as your achievement or as your failure. So as engineers, we are very detailed and very thorough and very analytical. And that skill will help us now in this leadership area of decision making. So first process of making a decision, of course, we know that if we want to make a decision, we have a change order that we want to order. We want to take a decision towards something. So there is always a problem or a change of direction or something that has to change. That is why a decision is needed. So it's a part of a process, to change a direction. So first thing to do is to start by identifying what your options are. The alternatives that you have, what are they? Option A, option B, option C, option D. And what are they? Option A is this, option B is that, option C is a combination of A and B, option D is a combination of B and D. So you look at them like that. That is what identifying means. You must identify your alternatives, your options. So once you identify them and put them in a different box each, then you define them. Defining helps you understand them. Like, you give them meaning, you give them value. That is what defining means. You explain them. Then you now analyze them. After you've defined them, that is, you've understood them, you now analyze them. Their impact, their correlation, their relationship between each other. All those units of decisions and their consequences. You have to identify them, analyze them, look at the relationship, the impact, the references on option A to B, and to the environment, and to the project, and to the stakeholders. So it's a holistic process. So you look at them like that. Then when you finish analyzing them, that's understanding their relationship, on each other, and on the environment, and on you, on the business. Then you evaluate. So now since you've understood the relationship, the correlation, the inferences, you evaluate. That is knowing the consequences, A and B. Which one should I choose? And what will I be left with when I choose A? And what are the consequences of choosing A? What are the impacts of choosing A? What are the consequences of choosing B? So you evaluate those, bring those consequences together, maybe in a different table or boxes, or in your different board meetings, and you analyze, you look at them properly, and look at the pros and the cons of each step, or each process, or each alternative. So that is the process of decision making. So if we say decision making, people think it's just me deciding to go to work, or me deciding to buy a TV. But now you understand that when you decide to buy a TV as a project, you have to go through this process, identifying the particular TV that you want, and the other alternatives of TVs that are available in the market, defining them. Which TV is cheaper, which TV is more expensive, what are the features of those TV. You analyze by looking at those features, and how they relate to your needs. Then you evaluate which option do I want, which consequences can I deal with, which consequences can I not deal with. I cannot watch a TV that does not have a remote. I cannot watch a TV that does not have a power backup, at least to last for an hour. So you prioritize through evaluation. So then the final part is choosing. You make a decision. So these are processes for choosing making a very informed decision, and especially when it doesn't have to do with your personal agenda anymore. It has to, you're not dealing with a corporate agenda now, because your business is a corporation, no matter how small it is. So this is the total thing. So we're going to look at a graph model that was designed and founded by Anderson and his team of decision-making researchers. So they came up with this model of the whole thing that we've defined, how to make a decision. First and foremost, we talked about defining the problem. So we talked about identifying the alternative, then determine the criteria, then you do your analysis. Then you can have a qualitative analysis and you can have a quantitative analysis. And of course, we know what qualitative and quantitative are. That's the number and the value that they add. Then this we summarize and evaluate based on all those options. Then we make our decision. So these are the processes of making a decision in making a corporate decision in a corporate world, so that you can be sure that all angles to the alternatives are looked at and properly defined and then selected. So we're going to look at the next skill that we have on that top skills, and we have team building. So team building, some call it teamwork, some call it just a team, but whatever you call it, it's all about more than two or more people working together to achieve something, to achieve a development or to take on a project. And we are very aware, like I said, engineering is a teamwork venture. It's a completely team working venture, because you're looking at stages, you're looking at processes, you're looking at a lot of things together, and so many experts at so many stages are going to be responsible, even with their own team. Internal teams are going to be responsible for doing this. So if you have an agenda, an entrepreneurial intention, and you want to pursue that program or that project or that enterprise, then you would definitely need a team. So, and you will start recruiting those teams. And I always tell people that there are very fundamental factors to look at when you want to execute, recruit those team of people that will help you, or employ people that will help you pursue your business agendas or your projects as an engineer. So we have two types of team building approach. We have the heterogeneous and the homogeneous. As the names imply, the heterogeneous has to do with order, putting together different things. Hetero means different things, different layers, different components, different people. So variety. So while homo means one. So under the heterogeneous team building approach, you are encouraged to build teams that have people with different background, different experiences, different education, different religious leaning, and different, like, people from variety, people from different walks of life. So this is what this approach is all about. While the homogeneous talks about getting people, assembling a team that have shared value or shared interest or shared background or experience or ideology, so together. So there is difference, advantages and disadvantages of each of the approaches. Heterogeneous team building approach is very tedious and very challenging. But it has been, although the debate is actually still going on eventually on which of the two approaches that are most effective. So decision making is more faster in homogeneous, because when people are from the same background, or perhaps religious, economic, or social ladder of life, they tend to reason in a similar way. So it's easier to manage their output. So they reason together, they work together, they understand together easily than when people are from heterogeneous. In heterogeneous team approach, you have huge challenge, personality differences, both mental, emotional, and psychological differences. So you have a lot of things that comes in under heterogeneous team building approach. But popular opinion says that heterogeneous is better because heterogeneous gives you variety. Like a team that is heterogeneous in nature means that they can look at everything. For instance, if you're making a design of a 3-bedroom affordable house, so a team that has a Muslim female engineer who is maybe either 21 years old and another engineer that is about 60 years old who is maybe from the southeastern part of Nigeria or from the western part of Nigeria, and a fusion of young and older people, a fusion of entrepreneurial engineers and technical engineers, all together working, you will see that they are more prone to address or understand a problem and also have the resources within them because of the diversity to respond better. So if, for instance, because there was a time I was working with a real estate committee and we're looking at affordable housing, and I will never forget that moment when an engineer that is a member of our committee who is a Muslim raised a major issue about our perimeter fence, our perimeter wall that is too low, that for projects that are coming to northern Nigerians, that it would be preferable for them to have a higher wall because everybody wants their properties and their families properly secured. So you can imagine that design wouldn't have been successful if we don't have that engineer in our team. Is a minor thing, but it's a fundamental. It can make a fundamental difference between you selling that real estate and that real estate collapsing, failing, or being avoided, or being blacklisted as not meeting Islamic requirements in the north. So I want to give you an insight of how useful or productive heterogeneous team approach can be to your business venture. And remember that whatever you're putting out in the market, you don't have control over who will buy the product. So it's very important that you are open to the market because the market is open. So then another important team building approach that you are going to look at, factor that you're going to look at outside these two approaches that we've just discussed, is your ability to build relationships with each and every member of your team. This understanding of teamwork is not limited only to enterprises or businesses or projects, or is a life principle too. So you need to build relationships and understand the people, because those relationships will help you understand the members of your team. So because for instance, a team member that you understand very well can tell you, I don't know whether many of us that work in big organizations have been in situations where you're working in a team or you're working with your subordinates, and they tell you something else, but because you know them very well, you know that that information is not complete. So you query them more to get more. So if you don't understand them, understand their eye contact, understand their body languages, understand what motivates them and what demotivates them, you may not be able to read the non-verbal or non-written communication that they give. So, but as a leader and as an entrepreneurial engineer, you are one. You are automatically one. So you need those skills to know. My people say that it's your ability to know the eye. Someone that is cutting you eye and someone that is giving you wicked eye. So you must be able to know the difference and identify the two, so that you know when to respond. Even when you are receiving a positive answer, you know that that answer is incomplete, just because you understand the body language and the personality of the team that you're working with. So this is very, very, very fundamental for team building. And of course, we said that engineering is all about teamwork. So, so we need this to succeed. So it is very important that we ensure that all team members get the agenda. You know, don't keep some information. In the last class, I told you about how lack of clear communication affected cost our project a lot, just because an information was not passed on time, or it was passed but it was not clearly communicated. So ensure that your goals, the objectives, what is expected from every team member, the tasks that every team member is assigned to do, that it is very clear, that they understand it. If they don't understand it, try to, as the leader of the team, try to come back again on the issue, because it is very, very important. Otherwise, they will also not be able to perform optimally. And if they don't perform optimally, you are going to, that's why it's a team. A team takes credit for its work. So one link, we say that a team is as strong as its weakest link. So one link that is weak can affect the performance of a team. So or one link that is ignored. So you must take care of that. Then identify and manage challenges. Of course, there will be issues in the team, either communication issues, challenges, maybe when the time meetings are set are not convenient, or the means of having the meeting, like the virtual classroom that we're having now, is a challenge born out of the pandemic. So now we are responding to it virtually. So you're going to identify challenges that will hinder the operation and the activities of your team, or who are members of your entrepreneurial venture. So those challenges and how you manage and respond to them are very, very important. And in all we do, we must constantly review the commitment of this team, of our team. So if you're setting up an organization and you want to recruit your 5-star generals, the people that you want to be on your board of your project or of your task, then you look at, one, what are they bringing to you on the table, and what is your entrepreneurial intention. Then you know whether you're going to, because you need diversity, to approach heterogeneous team building, or you say, no, I don't need diversity. This thing, a team of people, selected people with the same mindset, the same background, the same understanding, can take care of this. So you decide whether you're going with homogeneous approach. So, and then you know how to identify all these people that are going to be working with you, down to a cleaner is a team member, because they clean where you have to work. So their job is to provide that task or that services that they are appointed on the team to do. So you must identify all these people and their relationship and what the roles that they perform is to the entire goals of the organization, and also ensure that those goals and objective of the organization is clear and simple, straightforward, and understood by these team members. Then you must identify the challenges and manage them. Then constantly review the commitment of, because as you select people across board, for instance, if you're going with heterogeneous, you must identify what motivates them. We are going to talk about motivation. So, and motivation is always leads to commitment. So when you identify what motivates people, then you can know how to manage the level of their commitment in your team. So we'll look at now communication. Before we go into communication properly, normally I'm supposed to group you guys at this juncture of this class into a team. And I will want you to also do that, because it gives you an understanding of what we are talking about. I know that many of us have experiences in several areas of working with different people with different character, but this class and this course requires that you form a team, a class team, so for an assignment that you're going to deal with. So, but I will encourage you to not look at individuals just based on your personal perception about them when you're going to form this team. Look at, focus on what you're going to achieve, which is the assignment that you will be given, and then bring in people in your team randomly that you are going to work with. I want you guys to have a meeting, interact with each other, and identify the goals of that task and how you are going to respond to it. Then at the end of the day, you're going to write a report of how you formed the team, what informed your decision, how you guys came to come together. And the team should not be a minimum of 5 people. And since you are 20-something, so a minimum of 5 people, a maximum of 6 of the team. So we're looking at about 4 teams now, or thereabouts. So tell us how you came together, 4 of you came together. Tell us what informed that decision. Tell us how you interpreted and analyzed the topic that you were given to solve. Tell us the contribution of each and every member of the team and why they were assigned those responsibilities. And what again? Then you are going to put all this into a report and then send it to me. So it will form part of your assessment. I give assignments, practical assignments. I don't give assignments that people will need to go and sit down and write. So I want to see because these are, what we're talking about are things that you're going to be doing every day. So we want to see you do those things as an assignment. That will form part of your internal assessment. So class governor, take note of that. By the end of this class, you ensure that team members, people form teams, and then send me their team name. You can say team A, team B, team C, team D, with the names of the members and the leader of the team, the coordinator of the team leader, or the team lead, or the coordinator. So I want it like that sent to me, and then you guys will form a communication medium. I don't know whether you want to do email, you want to do WhatsApp, you want to do Zoom meeting, however you want to meet is up to you, but it will form part of your final report. So then, okay, that is for team building and other of the skills, because there is an interplay of other of the skills that we're talking about in that assignment that you're going to do. So back to our class. Communication is one of the top skills, one of the top 5 skills that were identified in managing engineering and construction project or venture or business or whatever you want to call it. So communication is one of them. And I tell people every time that Communication, yes, we all know that communication is all about transmission of information from one place to another or from one person to another. But if communication is not understood, that information that is being transmitted is not understood, then communication has not taken place. People must note that. So what makes a communication is that there is understanding. So if I'm teaching this class and I'm not emphasizing or ensuring that I'm demonstrating enough for you to understand, then I am not communicating. I'm only passing, maybe broadcasting news or giving out information. So that is the difference. So, but when it comes to communication, there must be understanding. People must get to know the whole complete information and its relating impact on the circumstance that has to do with whatever it is that is being discussed or being communicated about. So it is very important that we note that. So, and in the military, you know, we said that engineering is modeled from military. In the military, that's why that when a senior officer is addressing a junior officer, the junior officer must respond in affirmation, mostly verbally. In the military, it's verbal, that you understand the information that has been passed to you. Because if a junior officer does not acknowledge that he understands what has been communicated, it cannot be taken as an order. It's very important that we note this lifestyle of military and inculcate it in our professional and corporate world. So, in as much as we are passing information, we should not assume that our senior or our junior has understood what has been communicated. So they must acknowledge that they understand, so that we are sure that it's no longer our responsibility as leaders or as communicators. So that is the emphasis that we need to learn about communication. So communication is the most common means of securing cooperation from people. We're talking about entrepreneurial engineering, which has to do with our idea, our inventions, our innovations, then putting it out there in the market. So who are the markets? It's the people. So, and how do we get those informations, those knowledge, those interests, those our goals and objectives out there to the people, to the investor, to our team members? How do we talked about objectives being clear, and being understood. How do we do those things? It's through communications. If you have a wonderful idea that you're not communicating properly, then you will not be able to transmit those ideas that you have in you to another person. Like I said, it's a very important skill and it's a very valuable skill in all sphere of life, not just in entrepreneurial engineering or in project management. It's very, very fundamental, especially for us, some of us that are managing sites. When you give instructions to your workers, ensure that, especially that they are written, that they are understood, and you ensure that you force them to acknowledge that they understand what has been written. Because if they don't acknowledge that, it cannot be taken that it's their fault. And maybe the person will sleep and forget what you have directed that they should do and do something else that will cost the organization money. And then the investigations and inquiry will be launched. So you will need those evidences to justify that as the leader, that you were clear and that you were properly understood. So it's a very valuable skill that we should take very seriously. in our operations as engineers and in our life as entrepreneurial engineers. Now, another fundamental thing we need to note here is that, like I said, it is the fundamental, it is the primary skill for influencing and controlling the thoughts and actions of other people. It is very, very important. Some of us, like, will go into a presentation to sell an idea either to our board or to our boss, immediate boss, officer, or to anybody, or to an investor. So by the end of that presentation, you want to leave there changing the mentality, the mindset, and the understanding of your audience. So the normal classroom will be to chunk out information to you, but no, because this classroom is very, very important and emphasizing on applicability of those skills that you've been taught. So it is very important that you understand that we must be able to influence the people around us when we are making presentations, that when we are transmitting knowledge or thoughts or information, that those informations are received by the receivers and well processed by the receiver and then understood by the receiver. So you cannot say you've communicated without changing, without that information, either changing or updating an existing audience of what they already know. So the things that I'm telling you now, many of us already know them by practice or by other trainings that you've done. But the influence that this class is having on you now is that it's either validating what you already know or it's informing you, informing your new thought process. So that is what communication needs to do. It's not just chucking out information out there. So, and also when you want to do commercialization, remember, bear this in mind, that communication is communication, whether internally or externally. So therefore, you are bound to treat the audience, your customers, as if they are your stakeholders, because that they are. They are the, but we have the, we are always treating stakeholders to shareholders and investors. Then we look away from the clients or the customers. But those are the biggest shareholders. So you must communicate to them as if you're communicating to the entire organization. Be clear, be concise, and ensure that they understand, even in your commercials, even in your marketing commercials. So it is very, very important we do that. Otherwise, we'll be wasting money, increasing operational costs, and not meeting the targets. And as an engineer, you don't want to not to be hitting the targets. You know, so it is very important that end to end is captured. So another thing that informs communication is its dependence on experience. You know, when you do and you learn. And also the other experiences, maybe some of us that have worked in a more organized or sophisticated work environment may have some experience about this communication techniques that we are talking about than some of us who have not had that privilege. So experience informs and educates and influences us. So another thing, another factor that communication depends on again is, okay, first let me tell you how your experience also informs your ability to communicate. An organization, okay, I've done that already. I've said that organizations where these things are instituted, they have higher communication strategy than some smaller organizations. So you will find out that someone who is coming from a huge organization with a very depth operational capacity, that they have a more fine-tuned communication strategy or skills than some of us who have not had that opportunity. So that is how an experience influences your skill, your communication skill. Then desire is another thing. Desire comes in with, when we talked about persistence, enthusiasm, intentions, motivation. So desire comes with all those. So that's another factor. How excited are you about what you're communicating? How interested are you about it? I tell us that when we want to form an entrepreneurial intention, that it must be founded by a deep desire, a deep personal desire and passion. So, because passion has a way of driving the whole thing at the end of the day. So the thing, when you say things that you're passionate about, and when you say things that you're not passionate about, your tone is different. Maybe the difference between how we are teaching this course and maybe how other courses that you may have learned without a little bit of excitement or enthusiasm, maybe because of the desire. So because for one is that this course is being taught in a passionate way, because entrepreneurship is a passion. So, and that passion is what I'm trying to ignite in every one of us, that is influence you and control your thoughts. Communicate to you that passion. So that is how I'm trying to demonstrate here how your desire, persistent passion informs the communication. Because whether you like it or not, your vocal cord will be jumping up and down, your demonstrative ability will be more dramatic, and you have that personal involvement on the audience, because you want to ensure that like if you're in a meeting presenting something that is crazy for you, you're so interested in, you can find yourself jumping across the table to shake the panelists to understand what you're talking about, because of how desirable you want them to see those things from your perspective. So that is how desire informs or plays on communication skill. Then the next thing is understanding. Like I said, communication is dependent on understanding. By the time you're done with all your drama, the end goal is to drive understanding, that people understand these things and that is embedded in their thoughts. So this is very, very important. So generally, we define communication as a process of stimulating meaning in the mind of audience or in the mind of someone else. So it's all about stimulating meaning. You have a picture in your mind that you want to communicate. You have a pattern or a design that you want to communicate into someone's subconsciousness, into their thoughts, not just in their head, but embedded in their thoughts. So that is what it is. Communication is all about, the process of stimulating someone's thought or meaning into someone's thought. So that is what communication is all about. Then we have three types of communication. We have the accidental, and we have the expressive, and we have the rhetorical. The accidental communications are communications, as their name sounds, that are accidental, that were never planned, but they are communicated. Then the expressive communication is the one that I'm doing now, shaking my head, moving the body language type of communication, moving my mouth, talking, and showing you PowerPoint presentations so that you can understand and make meaning out of the conversation. So that is an expressive communication type. Then rhetoric is a little bit of active communication, is in between the two. So you have a communication that is not 100% defined, but it happens. You know, just like the expressive communication is always is premeditated. I've planned this class. I've planned my presentation before putting it out to you guys. Accidental. There are things I tell you in the course of this course that I didn't plan to tell you. They just happened. So the accidental communication, but I found out that they can help buttress my points. So I get involved with them. So rhetorical is a little bit of both. You know, is the ones that I said now that happened at the course of this lecture that were not planned, then cutting across accidental, expressive, then you have the rhetoric type of communication. So is a little bit of both in different amount. So that gives you what rhetoric communication is all about. So communication, very, very important. I don't want to overemphasize the need of communication because it's your beginning and your end of your entrepreneurial idea. The moment you've conceived that idea, you must communicate it to someone to recruit them as a team member first. So you find out that you're going to build a team is dependent on your communication ability. So, for you to get people on board, for you to get the marketers on board, for you to get the investor, everything here depends on communication. So your business plan, which we will talk about in the next class, is a communication tool. So, so that is how important and fundamental that communication skill is needed. And remember, it includes both the oral and verbal communications. Then we will look at motivation now. So we have intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Motivations, entrepreneurial motivation. Entrepreneurial motivation has to do with the things that stimulate your thought, your entrepreneurial intention, the factors that play on your entrepreneurial intention. And those factors can now be classified or categorized into either intrinsic motivation or extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is defined as the desire that you have to perform, an activity. The interest that you have, your excitement, your enthusiasm, the value, the internal value that you get out of that project or out of that idea that you are trying to execute. So while extrinsic motivation, in contrast, is the desire to perform a task for a particular consequences. So consequences can be for a particular consequence. Consequences can be either an incentive or a negative consequence to avoid a punishment. So where you tell a worker that in your organization that they should go and do this thing, otherwise they are getting a query, is an example of negative consequences or punishment using it as a motivation. So where you tell a worker that they should do this, that they are going to get a bonus, or that their name will be, if they follow this path, that they are going to make it to become the board of your organization. They're going to make it to your board or shareholder. That is an example of extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is measured, is measurable, while intrinsic motivations are not measured. They are, sometimes people say, oh, don't worry, don't thank me, I'm excited to do it, or I'm happy to do it. Or you pass through a project, or you read a material, a paper that you've written, or a house that you built for a client, and you are happy. And one of the reasons why you are happy, you smile, you're excited about it, is not just that the client paid you well. It's because you're looking at how magnificent the work of your hand is. So that is another type of motivation that is internal, that is inbuilt, that is gotten out of the quality of what is put out there, and not by the measure of tangible materials that you are going to receive. So intrinsic motivation is intangible in the sense that you cannot quantify them, while extrinsic motivation is tangible because you can measure them. You can say, okay, I'm going to get a raise next month if our production hits this level. That is extrinsic motivation, because promotion is measurable. You're going to move from one rank to another. But wow, I am so excited that our team were able to achieve this, and we are grateful. We just want our names to be put as the team that delivered this result. That is intrinsic, because what you want is immeasurable. I don't want my name to be taken out of as the inventor or the innovator or the creator of this. No amount of money anybody offers you anywhere in the world will take you out of that theory, that design that you discovered. So that is an intrinsic motivation. They can never be bought by money. So the two motivations are useful in different contexts and in different circumstances. But as an entrepreneur, I will recommend that you go with the intrinsic people. Ensure that you recruit people in your organization that are motivated beyond what is tangible. They just see that idea and they are excited with it. They want to add their name to your name as the founders, or as the co-founders, or as the people that sustain and move this business or this enterprise from conception to commercialization or to reality. So always look for that element. And we human beings, to a different degree, we have different type of motivation. So nobody has a pack of one type of motivation only. So, and you're also going to find that in your team. The intrinsic motivation of some people will be a little bit higher than some people. Some people's extrinsic motivation, maybe some people might be more interested in being your partner, your co-founder, than they are as excited as having that idea succeed. Someone else might just want the idea to succeed, so they want to be in your board to help you succeed. And of course, whatever you offer is a compensation for the time that they are spending with you. Like, I'm teaching this course now, I don't want to be compensated by the end of it. I want to receive my money 100%, but I don't want to just teach the course to you for the money, because I don't think that there is a particular amount that will be enough for us to learn what we need to learn. So therefore, I can be argued to be leaning to intrinsic motivation when it comes to this class to a greater percentage than extrinsic. So there is a combination of both factors, of both motivation in everybody, because by the end of this class, if you don't pay me, or if I don't get paid, I'll be angry by the end of the month. So I'll be angry and I'll call the head of the department, I'll call the director. Do you understand what I'm talking about? So in as much as that we are encouraging you to go for intrinsic motivation when you are recruiting or selecting your team,
Talk, well done.
Thank you, you're welcome. So like we did it in the last, like we did in the first class, if you want to talk, you unmute your mic, then you ask your question. And you first and foremost start by telling us your name and where you work or the role that you're doing there. And then you tell us about yourself. The idea is that so that we know our background or our areas of specialization more and the organizations where we work. Okay, then you ask your question. So you can raise, if you want to ask questions, you can raise your hand, then I call you by name, you respond, okay? So who is talking now? Who wants, okay, I've seen Akim or Yadele, go ahead with your question. So any other person that wants to talk will signal me so that we can do it in an organized and orderly manner. So Akim, you can go ahead. Ayodele Akim, go ahead with your question.
Yes, thank you very much. Wonderful presentation, so impactful. Every session with you is always loaded with information and with very apt means of communication. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm an electrical engineer. I work with oil and gas industry, and I'm into the protection. So my question is on the table you shared for competency. There are some columns there that I don't understand what they actually imply. That column is actually that of frequency. So 150, I see different values. So frequency in what? Is it frequency of interest or per year? Or so that measure I don't really understand it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Akeem. It's so nice to have your question. Frequency is the statistics, the number of, it wasn't actually relevant to this class, but I left them there for just a reason so that you understand that these are the number of people, engineers, during the survey that says that that particular skill is important. So it also helps you understand that when I was going through the table, I said that many of them, like if you look at them very well, you see that the ones that are even in the 20 maybe have similar frequencies to the one that is number one. That is to tell you that almost all of them are important, but based on that frequency, we have to find a way to rank those skills and competencies by those frequencies to determine the top ones and to determine the top bottoms. But eventually, all of them are very, very important, because if you go by average, you will see that most of the skills there are rated by over about 40 or over 30, about 140 or 130 of the participants, and that is an outstanding percentage if you go by percent. So all of them are always hitting almost 90%. If you go to the percentage table, 90% and 80%. So all of them are actually very, very important. So the frequency is just the number of people that participated in that particular survey and that rated that skill as very, very important to engineering and construction management. Okay. Okay, I can see. Okay, Emmanuel. Sorry if I don't pronounce your name very well. Sorry. So Emmanuel, go ahead. After you, Luke will come on. Okay.
Okay. I still want to tow the same line to commend you for this lecture. I've learned so much, obviously. But my question is, I'm one of those persons who feel that an average engineer in this side of the world is trapped. We're kind of trapped in terms of innovation. We are kind of trapped in terms of our ideas and everything. Why am I saying this? You talked about this innovation, which is a major driver of entrepreneurial spirit in every organization. But at the end of the day, you find out that out there, they're able to implement their ideas to create big businesses like these electric vehicles by Elon Musk, Tesla, and all that. But when you come here with all your ideas, it seems as if I may have even conceptualized the idea of electric vehicles before Tesla. But there was no way I could have implemented it, because where I live, even in the entire Nigeria, there's no light. So even thinking about that innovation, no matter how good it is, there's no way I can forge ahead with that plan. So my question is, does it now mean that our level of advancement in terms of creativity can only maybe be determined by the environment we find ourselves? That is one. Then two is that at best, the way tailor, if it can be determined by the environment we find ourselves, do we now tailor our level of innovation to the capacity our environment can hold, so that we don't seem as if we are going out of what our immediate environment can hold, like Nigeria? Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay. Thank you for your question. It's a very interesting question, and Okay, talking about trapped ideas by our environment